Okay, so we've just finished interfacing our pattern pieces. Now what we need to do is grab our bust pieces, and if you're doing a sleeve, you want to grab your long sleeves or short sleeves, as we are going to need to do some gathering. Yay! Okay, so this is my sleeve. It looks a mess right now, but that's okay. Here is my bust. So I'm gonna highlight what we need to do here on the bust. So I have, I'm doing a lining on this bust. So your bust piece may be just 1 ply, not 2 ply like mine is. That's quite all right. But what we want to pay attention to are these notches that we've done in the pattern pieces. So I'm going to zoom in a little bit here so you can see it a little bit better. I like to cut my notches out because then I don't lose them. This is just a matter of preference for me though. So you can see my notches in the form of these triangles here. So in between these notches, we are going to do 2 rows of gathering stitches. And if you aren't familiar with gathering stitches, what they are extremely loose straight stitches with a really loose thread tension that you stitch in order to pull strings for gathering. So what I find the easiest thing when you're gathering, because your bobbin threads and your top stitch threads are different and they do make a difference, I find it super helpful to just grab like some old random color of thread that contrasts whatever you're making, maybe from an old project that's, you know, in a bobbin, and put that in your bobbin, and then you'll easily be able to tell what your bobbin thread are. So, or what your bobbin thread is, and then use for your top stitch thread, for the top thread, you can use a matching color or coordinating color if you want to. But we're gonna sew 2 rows of stitches, gathering stitches down here at the bottom of the bust piece. The first one will be right along the line, the edge of the pattern pieces, and the next one will be just about, you know, a 1/4 inch from the edge. So we're gonna go 2 right there in a row, and let's jump over to the sewing machine and do that. But we're also going to be, after we've done this for both bodice pieces, done the gathering between the 2 notches, we're also going to do the same thing for the sleeve if you're doing the sleeve option. If you look at your pattern piece here, you've got 2 notches right here in the top of the sleeve head, these line markings on the pattern. So I have cut the notches in my fabric. So let me remove this pattern piece, and I want to show you what I'm talking about here. You'll see it right here. So there's this triangle and this triangle are my notches. So in between these 2 lines is where we're going to do some gathering. If you're doing the short sleeve option, it looks very similar because the markings are exactly the same. If you're doing the sleeveless option, you can skip to the next step, next video, and you can just move on with your life. Okay, so before you get started stitching, you just want to go over to the stitch length adjuster on your machine and lengthen your stitch for basting, or set your basting stitches. A lot of machines have particular basting stitches that you can use. Then we'll go to town. So we just want to find the notch, drop our presser foot about 1/8 of an inch out from the edge here, and start stitching our gathering stitches until we get to the other notch, which is over here off the camera. Okay, so I've just done 1 row of gathering stitches. You can see this easier on the back side because it's not the navy blue. I opted for like a purple color. So they're just really loose stitches between the 2 notches. Now let's do a second row of stitches, about a 1/4 inch away from the ones we just stitched. And we don't want to backstitch when we are gathering. We just want to release our needle or pull our needle up and then just pull out the other side. Okay, so we've got 2 rows of gathering stitches now. Now let's repeat this for the other bodice piece and the sleeves if you're doing the short sleeve or the long sleeve. So I've got both of my bodice pieces done. Now I'm just going to stitch in between the notches on my sleeve head. For the long sleeves, I forgot to mention this before, but we also need to stitch the bottom portion of the sleeve in a gathering stitch, approximately 1/2 inch from either side. Start in and run your gathering stitches. You're going to do 2 rows of gathering stitches just like we did. And I just ran out of that one color of bobbin, so I'm gonna find another bobbin thread color that is funky that I need to use, and I'll use it instead. It's a great time to use up those random bobbin thread colors that you have left over from other projects. Now we have 2 rows of gathering stitches at the bottom of the one sleeve. We're going to repeat that process for the other sleeve.